Hello everyone, my name is Henry Harrod. I am the co-founder and CEO of Fourier Audio, and so it was, kind of late 2020. It was at Southampton University, it was mid-COVID, and I was studying at the ISVR in a Masters in Acoustical Engineering, and I got an email through from the Future Worlds team, Grace in fact is here, and kind of mentioned the existence of Future Worlds, and at the time we were talking, the three of us, the three co-founders of Fourier Audio, about starting a business, and there were various crazy crackpot ideas, but the kind of vague premise was that we wanted to disrupt the audio technology sector, especially in the live domain. So I used to be a theatre sound engineer, I used to work in the West End in London and beyond, and the other co-founders, Gareth Owen, was my boss at the time. He's a kind of very decorated live sound engineer and sound designer for the West End and Broadway. And then Pete, my friend from Imperial College London, a very talented engineer, came together in that time that we had during COVID to dream about the live audio sector. And through that and through the journey with Future Worlds, we developed Fourier Audio. And in a nutshell, the product that we're coming to market still at the moment with is a product called Fourier Transform Engine. And the Transform Engine enables sound engineers to use studio plugins, so software that's used in recording studio environments on live productions. And so customers we're working with at the moment are, say, Coldplay, Muse, many of the biggest acts in the world. And so I was asked to come here today just to talk a little bit about my journey, and I kind of was asked initially just to kick off with some lessons I learned. So if you would entertain me, just kind of rattle down my list, and then hopefully we can have some questions off the back of that. And so kind of was asked, what were the kind of, say, 5 things that through that journey I've discovered? And the first one that I reflected on, I think obviously the title of the thing suggests, we've now been acquired, and I can come on and talk about that in a bit. But in that arc from starting a company to leading to acquisition, reflecting on that, one of the biggest things I learned is you need to try to deep down understand what you personally want from the journey. What is it that gets you into being a startup founder? Because it's a crazy idea. It's quite frankly a bit mad to go into it. But yet we do it, and everyone in here has a connection with the entrepreneurial market and being an entrepreneur in one way, shape or form. And certainly looking back, what I wanted to change my career. I wanted to change from being a sound engineer to being in the startup space. And that was my anchor throughout that whole journey. So one of the key things is to remember what you personally want, not necessarily what your co-founders want. Collectively, you can discuss that. But it's your job as a human being, as an individual and as an entrepreneur to understand exactly what you want from the journey and hold on to that for dear life, because it will help you when the decisions get really tough. Another thing that you hear the term imposter syndrome time and time again, and obviously here I am talking to you, whereas 3 years ago I was sat where you guys are, albeit on a webcam. And you look back at that, and the imposter syndrome throughout the journey has been crazy, at times crippling. But over time it has got better, and there's been kind of various things along that journey and kind of clear things that help it. And the biggest one, and this is going to sound like a blind advert for Future Worlds, is the connections that you make through schemes like Future Worlds. I also was privileged to be supported by the Royal Academy of Engineering with an enterprise fellowship. And those connections and that support from institutions and the individuals within them and connected to them, without doubt, is the best tonic for imposter syndrome. And that's why I've come back. It's why I want to give back as much as I possibly can, because by being here, by connecting with people, by speaking to people, that's how you'll tackle that imposter syndrome as you go along your journey. And in that journey, albeit surrounded by imposter syndrome, one of the hardest things to do is understanding when to celebrate. Like, when have you actually won? Because it's very easy to be head down, charge, do the thing, one foot in front of the other. You set yourself goals, say, along the way, or in fact, quite often you don't even know what your goals are or where you're going. And it's very hard to know when to celebrate. And I think one of the key things that I've learned along the way, in fact, Pete, the co-founder, he gave me the book by Jack Welch very early on called Winning. It's a great book, highly recommend it. And the simple premise is make sure you win. Make sure when you win that you celebrate it. You celebrate deeply. You really celebrate hard. Really, really desperately difficult to do. I first put my hand up and say I'm terrible at it. But along the way, we've done our level best to make sure we celebrate the successes along the journey. I'm more than happy to talk about that as well. Now, one thing that I look back on, and certainly here we are at the moment, bringing a product to market literally right now, it's in beta test, going to market and generating revenue. One of the things that I've learned along the journey is the clear detachment between fundraising success and business success. And as an entrepreneur and as a business person, starting a company that's there to generate bluntly a profit, it is your responsibility as a founder, as an employee of that business, to make money for the company, right? It's there to drive a profit. And I think it's all too easy to come into this, and we did this without a shadow of a doubt, came into it with what was a good idea. We had a really strong vision and a great team, which is crucial, but actually being fixated on what is a good business, what drives a clear profit that's going to build a solid foundation to build your company, to employ more people and actually grow it sustainably, is one of those key things that we didn't have clear enough sight of when we were starting out. Now, we're much better at that now, in part supported by the company that's acquired us, but also in going through the journey we've been through, we've become far more fixated on the side of the business and building a healthy, sustainable business, rather than just unbounded growth and selling a premise, selling a vision. Now, that can get you so far, and indeed it got us a very long way. But I would strongly encourage you to really become fixated on the business that you're trying to build, because you don't necessarily need to fundraise your way into starting a startup. You really can start and bootstrap your way through to being an incredibly successful business. And the kind of final reflection that's slightly detached is around the notion of NDAs. I'm sure we're all familiar with that three-letter acronym. It's a terrible acronym. It's really irritating. I still deal with NDAs on a daily basis, and at times they are and very much do have their place. But as a founder sat in this room, let's say you are here, you've got an idea, you want to start a company, you probably may or may not have a co-founding team, but you do have an idea. Your instincts will be, oh, I can't tell anyone. You sign my NDA, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. Please just tell people what you're doing, talk to people, share what your plans are, share why you want to do it with investors, with potential other co-founders, employees, whoever it might be, because realistically, if the idea is worth pursuing, you are going to be the best person to do it. If you're not, really you're setting yourself up to fail in a way. Now, that's not to say that you're the only person to do it, but really making sure that you connect with other people about what you're doing it and why you're doing it without the need for paperwork and signing on the dotted line, it's just going to slow you down. So I just strongly recommend you to really be passionate and just share it with anyone who will listen, because you'll find that really that's the best jet fuel for your journey. So yeah, those are my wafflings anyway, so there's my reflections for you. But yeah, very much here to answer questions. I've met various of you in this room over my journey, so obviously know lots of familiar faces. So separately aside, thank you for supporting me.